You took the whole week off, did everything right, and came back feeling like you'd been hit by a truck. Slept in, no deadlines, no one needed anything from you. And somehow the tank reads the same as it did the night before you left. You're not broken, and you didn't waste the week. You did something with it that nobody ever taught you to spot. And once you see it, you can never run a week off the same way again. Here's the strange part. On paper, that week had every ingredient recovery is supposed to need. Time, freedom, sleep, zero obligations to anyone. So why does the meter not move? Look closer at what actually filled the days. A flight, or a long drive, or a train you almost missed. New beds, a friend's couch, 3 different group chats trying to lock down dinner plans, a festival, a trip, a wedding, somebody's birthday you flew in for. And in every quiet gap between those, your thumb on a screen, feeding your brain a fire hose of other people's lives. Add it all up. The stimulation load of that rest matched a working week. Sometimes it beat it. That's the trap nobody names. You think you took a week off from work. What you actually did was swap one high-input week for another high-input week. Then call the second one recovery, because it had no spreadsheets in it. The absence of work and the presence of rest feel like the same thing. They are completely different conditions. And almost nobody has ever practiced the second one. Think about what you're good at. You can grind. You can ship a project at 2 a.m, run on caffeine and stubbornness, and pull something out of nothing. You've trained that muscle for years. The muscle that does the opposite, that lets the system idle, that tolerates a day with no input and no output. Most people have never done a single rep with it. So when a free week lands in your lap, you do the only thing you know how to do. You fill it. You fill it with travel. You fill it with people, with content, with a packed list of things you've been meaning to get to. Every one of those is good. Stacked 7 days deep, they're a second job with better scenery. So what is rest? Actually, if it isn't the absence of a to-do list. Start with the body, because the body keeps the cleanest score. Your stress response doesn't read your calendar. It can't tell a deadline from a delayed connecting flight. It reads load. Novelty, decisions, noise, motion, screens. All of it registers as demand on the same system. A new city is 1,000 tiny demands an hour. Where's the bathroom? Which way's the station? Is this neighborhood fine? What's that charge on the card? Your conscious mind shrugs it off as fun. The machinery underneath is running flat out the entire time. Now, the part that actually matters for you, there's a real difference between feeling good and being recovered. A festival weekend can feel incredible and leave you more depleted than the week before it. Joy is one thing, restoration is another. You can have a great time and a worse battery, both at once. That's why the post-trip slump blindsides people. They keep waiting to feel the rest they're sure they earned. Because they remember laughing, they remember the views. The receipt for all that stimulation just comes due a few days late. Here's a scene you know. You get home Sunday night, bags by the door, and instead of relief, there's this low dread about tomorrow, plus a weird guilt that you had a whole week and still feel hollow. That guilt is the tell. You're measuring the week by how full it was. The body measures it by how empty it got to be. Those two scorecards almost never agree. So picture the version of the week that would actually move the meter, and notice how uncomfortable it sounds. A morning with nothing in it, no plan, no destination, no one to meet at a set time. Boredom you don't immediately kill with your phone. Hours where your mind drifts and snags on its own thoughts, instead of someone else's. For people wired to build, that doesn't read as rest. It reads as waste, as falling behind. And that flinch is exactly the thing standing between you and the recovery you keep failing to find. Let me steel man the other side, because There's a real argument here. Some people genuinely recharge through stimulation. The trip, the crowd, the new place, they come back lit up, full of ideas, ready to build. That's true, and it counts. But watch what's getting refilled. Motivation can spike from a great trip while your physical reserves keep draining. You can return creatively on fire and biologically wrecked. Riding that high for 2 weeks until you crash is a loan, not recovery. The energy was borrowed, and the trip never paid it back. So how do you run a week that restores you? Not by doing less, exactly, by understanding what your system is actually hungry for. The currency of rest isn't free time, it's low input. You can have a wide open day and bury yourself under 12 hours of scrolling, planning, and noise. You can also take an ordinary Tuesday and give your system real relief inside it. The variable that matters is how much your brain has to process, not how many obligations sit on the calendar, which flips the whole question. Stop asking, how much time off did I get? Start asking, how much input did I cut? A week with 1 trip and 5 genuinely empty days will rebuild you. A week with 5 trips and 0 empty days will hollow you out, no matter how good the photos look. This is leverage, and it's the kind you actually own. Nobody hands it to you. You don't need money for it or permission or a perfect schedule. You need to get comfortable with one specific discomfort: the silence of an unfilled hour, the boredom you usually reach to kill. That tolerance is a skill, same as any skill you've ever built. Awkward and unbearable at first, then quietly automatic. Most people never train it because doing nothing feels like failing. So they stay tired in a way no vacation can touch. Watch how this shows up in the small stuff, not just the big trips. You sit down to relax and immediately put something on a second screen. You can't eat without a video playing. A line at the store is 4 minutes you fill with your phone on reflex, never letting your mind sit idle for even that long. None of those are crimes. Together they mean your system almost never gets the one thing it's starving for: a gap, a stretch of low input long enough to start clearing the backlog. The backlog is real. Your brain processes the day in the quiet, not the noise. Starve it of quiet, and the unprocessed stuff stacks up. That's the static you feel on a week off. The presence of 1,000 inputs you never gave yourself room to digest. Pile a stimulating vacation on top of an already loaded mind, and you add to the pile. There's a quieter cost too, and it's the one that should worry a builder most. Every input you take in costs you a little judgment. After a day of constant stimulation, your decisions get worse. You reach for the easy snack, the cheap dopamine, the path of least resistance. You felt this. The night you can't decide what to eat, so you order the same thing again. The evening you meant to read and ended up 3 hours deep in a feed you don't even remember opening. That's a tired system running on fumes, making the lowest effort choice available, because choosing well costs energy it no longer has. Now stretch that across a whole restful week of nonstop input. You don't come back recharged and decisive. You come back foggy, reactive, reaching for whatever's easiest. And then you wonder why the first week back at your own projects feels like wading through wet sand. The fog isn't laziness. It's the bill for a week that never once let your system go quiet. Here's where it gets practical for the way you actually live. You're building things, projects, a body, a skill, a business, a mind sharper than it was last year. All of it runs on a resource you've been treating as infinite. It isn't. And the reason this matters more for you than for someone clocking out at 5 is simple. Nobody is going to force you to stop. No boss, no shift ending, no factory whistle. The discipline to rest has to come from the same place the discipline to build comes from. Train only one of those, and the other one quietly bankrupts you. So the next time a free week or even a free weekend opens up in front of you, run it differently. Pick one or two things that genuinely light you up: the trip, the people, the event, and protect them. Then guard the empty space around them just as hard. Defend a morning with no plan like it's a meeting you can't move. Be bored without reaching for the screen. Take the walk with no podcast in your ears. Sit through the gap. It will feel wrong. Your instinct will scream that you're wasting the day, falling behind, that you should be doing something. That scream is the muscle that's never been trained, panicking because it's finally being asked to stand down. Let it scream. Sit there anyway. That's the rep. Because the people who build a life that's genuinely theirs are rarely only the hardest grinders. They're the ones who can also do the harder thing on the other side. Stop on purpose, before the body forces the stop for them. Output is the loud half of the work. The quiet half is what keeps you in the game long enough for any of it to compound. You already know how to fill a week. That muscle is enormous. The one you've never trained is the one that finally lets the tank refill. And it's the difference between a life you sprint through and a life you can actually keep. Next time the empty day comes, don't rush to fill it. Sit in it. Let it be boring. That boredom is your tank quietly filling back up, and you're the only one who ever has to give it permission.